For a great cup of joe, there's one thing you should know. Your morning brew can also be playful. Buff Boy Brewing guys make the temperature rise, and you surely feel naughty when you swallow our coffee. If you want some real heat, give your mouth a fine treat. You will want some more, rest assured. Buff Boy Brewing, you can't get enough of.
It's time for The Scribble, your weekly fix of celebrity chats, bizarre stories in the news, and basic random chatter with best-selling author and syndicated radio host Jeremy Bradley. Make sure your seat is in the upright and locked position and your barf bag is securely in place. Here's Jeremy Bradley.
Thank you very much, Larson. Jeremy Bradley here on The Scribble. Thanks for tuning in today. I'm going to jump right into my first rant today, okay? Because I got a lot on my mind, lots to talk about. And the first thing is this whole cancel culture thing. I'm not breaking any news here. You've heard that Chris Harrison is stepping away as host of The Bachelor for the short term anyway. He's not going to be on after the final rose. Okay, first off, full disclosure. I don't care for this guy. I think that he's sort of a doofus. This is a guy who comes on and knowingly says that this is, it's a true search for love. It's like, that people are, no. The producers manufacture the storylines. They set people up for heartache and drama. So I realize that he's just doing his job as the host, but no, he's trying to become best buds with them, and then he hugs all these people from the show, and then he's knowingly in on the little sidestepping and, blind sides that they do on the show. So I don't respect Chris Harrison at all. But again, he's a victim of cancel culture. Here's my concern with this whole thing, is that he sort of misspoke in the moment. He perhaps gave his opinion. Whether the social media mob agrees with him or disagrees with him, well, because he doesn't have that majority public opinion, he's shut down, that's it, he's done, and then he's got to do this big apology tour, which that he perhaps partially is doing it because it's expected of him. Right? He's got to save face, no different than that Morgan Wallen thing that we talked about. Of course he's going to do the whole tearful sorry video and post it on social media. I mean, that's because that's what you have to do. Now, again, I'm not defending what Chris said about, you have to look it up. I don't have time to get into his remarks that he made on Extra, but again, what I'm saying is that he had an opinion, he had a slip of the tongue. So just because he feels a certain way, he shut down. Again, I repeat, I am not defending what he said because I don't care for him. But what my point is, it's the bigger picture. Is that he misspoke. He maybe let too much of it. Think about how these anchors on CNN, they're paid to have an opinion and give commentary, whether you agree with them or not. I think they bank on people, for the most part, agreeing with the opinion. That's why they have it. But no different than I'm a columnist in a newspaper, so I'm paid to have an opinion. Are you then going to go, and we have had people actually write into the newspaper. I get forwarded those emails. Thank you very much. But, people disagree, or somebody, I'm not kidding you, somebody had told the publisher to cancel my column because I used the word hell, and the guy wrote H-E hockey sticks as the way, because he didn't find it appropriate that I put the word hell. I'm sorry, big guy, you must live in buttfuck county, because if hell offends you, then you better cover your head, hide under the covers, because seriously, you got problems, really. And so I feel like Chris is getting the raw end of the deal where, okay, he said something insensitive and maybe he feels this way. But is that enough to just completely shut down this guy's life because he has an opinion that might be a little offensive? Doesn't almost everybody? Or are we punishing him because he couldn't bite his tongue like the rest of the population does? So I'd love to know your thoughts on this. Live at jbonair.com. Live at jbonair.com. Tell me what you think about this whole cancel culture thing. Was he right? And I saw that TMZ a few days earlier in the week posted a bunch of Bachelor people saying that, he should be forgiven. He just should need some sensitivity training. And it's like, come on, you guys. Really? Anyway, live at jbonair.com.
Who are the Kardashians feuding with now? What did that little thug Justin Bieber do this time? Who's getting hitched? And who's headed for Splitsville? Hear the latest celebrity news and gossip every day on Entertainment Wrap-Up. The good, the bad, the ugly, but mostly the ridiculously hilarious. It's all recapped in this daily segment at entertainmentwrapup.com. Have a laugh at the expense of the rich and famous when they take themselves way too seriously. It's 3 minutes of time-wasting fun at entertainmentwrapup.com. Check out Entertainment Wrap Up at entertainmentwrapup.com. Brought to you by Speak Free Books.
Jeremy Bradley here, back on the Scribble. Thanks for tuning in today. Okay, I'm going to get a little personal on your asses for a little bit, if you don't mind. And I don't normally open up about my family relationships and things like that. I'll tell general stories about things, right? But I don't really talk about. Well, my grandma tested positive for coronavirus, and in the fall, and then died on American Thanksgiving. Now, I say American Thanksgiving, right? Our American friends are like, why do you call it? Because I'm Canadian, and our Thanksgiving is a month before yours. And she died on American Thanksgiving. Well, I didn't have much time on the air to talk about this because we had taped our radio shows and podcast through the year. We had finished in November. So I was already done for the year when she died. And I didn't tell anybody, I didn't address it on the air about the diagnosis or the positive test, because you might recall that my dog had died, and we were talking about that on the radio, and I didn't want to just overload you guys with a whole bunch of depressing stories about my life, so I kind of waited, and I needed some time anyway to process it all. Well, fast forward now that things have settled, the holidays are over, things have settled down, and we're going to the house now as a family, just to, not to clean it out, because that just sounds so heartless, but to just go through things and see, who wants this, who wants that, what can we donate, and my grandma lived in a care home for, I guess, almost 2 years, and my grandpa had died many years ago, so she was in the house by herself for quite a while, and I hadn't been there for probably about 3 or 4 years. Now, it's so strange because this is a house that I remember going to even as a kid, right, when I was a baby, 2 years old, 3 years old, 4 years old, and not much had changed throughout that time. It's the same couch in the living room. It's the same, entertainment unit in the corner. It's the same rocking chair in the corner. It's the same kitchen table. It's the same kitchen floor. It's the same cupboards. It's, and so to me, it was like going back in time. It honestly felt like time had stood still. Somebody pressed pause on the house, and it's like, wow, this is like I'm going to an old TV set, it just I remember this. And there were so many things on the wall or in certain rooms or on a counter that you just remember them being there. And because I was so far removed from the house for so many years, when I go there, I remember it. And so I would look and go, something's missing from the wall there. Sometimes I couldn't pinpoint what it was, but I just knew something was different. And that's when my mom would say, oh, well, there was such and such, and, somebody took that. Oh, okay, great. But those are things that you don't realize that in the moment. So when I was there, let's say when I was 30, I wouldn't have gave it a second glance, right? But now that I go there, and maybe if something wasn't there then, it would have struck me. And so there was this little bar light downstairs. It was like a little, I don't know how to describe it. It said bar, B-A-R, and it was a little globe, and it lit up like you'd have on a corner of a little bar, right? And it had a corkscrew and a bottle opener and whatever. And I just remember always seeing that in that area by the cabinet of glasses. I don't know, just always remember seeing it. And we went into the rec room, and there was this old TV, a TV that we watched, again, 30-some years ago. So it had the little dial to go from channels, 2 to 13. But we watched that as kids downstairs. And I remember sitting on the little chair beside it and putting my drink there was always the bowl of chocolates at Christmas on that little end table. And all those memories just started flooding back when I was there. And so I said to my mom, I want the TV. And she all of a sudden starts, what are you going to do with the TV? Why do you want I want the TV. It's got an antenna. You're not even going to have cable. Well, of course, I've got a giant TV in my living room. I'm not getting it so that I watch it or use it. I just want it. It's a souvenir, a memento, right? An artifact, just something, a sentimental value. And she kind of rolled her eyes and scoffed at it. I said, whatever. It's my house. I live in my house. I've got tons of space. So if I want this little TV, I'll take this little TV. And then I said, no, and you know what? And then I want the chair, and I want the end table, and I want the lamp that's on it, and I want the other chair that's there. And she's just like, what are you going to do? I said, don't worry about it. I will find a place for it in my house. And if that means that I'm making a little shrine to my beloved grandma, I'm making a shrine to my beloved grandma. And so I gathered all these things, and I just thought that'll be a great photo op, on her birthday. And so then we go up to the kitchen, and she's just got tons of glasses, right? Wine glasses, drink glasses, bar glasses, just everything. She worked at a catering company for a long time. And I remember when she died, my mom had said, we're looking for photos for this slideshow. Everybody does a slideshow when there's a death. And so I had a ton of photos. And I remember one of my favorite photos of her is her cheersing to the camera. She's holding a wine glass, and she's holding it up. I remember that wine glass. It's a small little glass, and it's got like a circular little circles on a pattern going around the glass. And when I saw that in the cupboard, I was just like, I want that wine glass. That's the glass she has in that picture. Now, again, anybody in the family is going to be like, I don't know, that picture doesn't mean anything to them. It's not etched in their mind like it is mine. And so I just needed that wine glass. And so I thought for her birthday, that's what I'm going to do. In April, I'm going to do a cheers to the camera. I'm going to be sitting in that chair by the TV, and I'm going to stage a photo, and that's going to be my tribute to my Baba. And it just, I don't know, it just sort of made me feel good that I can do that. And there were two moments that really struck me that I kind of had an emotional reaction. I didn't in the moment. I didn't let it show. My mom didn't know that I was feeling this way. Was the thought of everybody going through the house and already, I'll say, picking it clean. It's not like we were looting. I mean, it's, there's still respect when you go through it. But to know that she had so many possessions, she had a lot of things. She wasn't a hoarder, but there were just a lot of cupboards, closets, cabinets. I mean, there was just a lot of stuff. Right? When you live there for, 60, 70 years, you amass a collection of things. And that's sort of what struck me odd. Like, I sort of felt guilty that I didn't want more of the things. And then I started to feel bad because a lot of these things meant something to her. I'm not saying they were her prized possessions or treasures to her, but she kept them for a reason. There was a story behind them. There was something. And so I really started to feel bad because, nobody wanted half of the plates or nobody wanted all these glasses. And I thought, ugh. Now, I realize that it's not, I've watched hoarders, so I understand when people start to just go, I want everything from our house, and that's just not a good way. But I did. I felt bad that she had a lot of these things, and the family was kind of like, I'm not going to do anything with this shit. Like, why do I need it for? And so I did feel bad with that. And there was a moment we went upstairs to her bedroom, and again, just randomly opening a drawer or a closet door or whatever it was. We found a bunch of old photos, and right on top in one of the drawers that we opened was a family newsletter. And years ago, 25 years ago, I always faded into the background in our family. I wasn't the star. I wasn't now, right? Now I hang out with celebrities in Hollywood, but I wasn't the star. I faded into the background. I was too young to, play this. I didn't really want to play the sports with the older kids. I just kind of did my own thing. And I would go and I would write, I would type my two sets of aunts and uncles each had computers at their houses. And so I would go at some point during our family get-together, and I would just start typing a story. One of them I wrote about going on a roller coaster and telling that story about going up and then going down. And then one other time I just made a newsletter. And we were at somebody's birthday, let's say, and I just typed about what was happening, right? So-and-so turned whatever. Here's the highlights of the presents, and here's, And again, 25 years ago, so it's not like we had, photos and everything in it. It was just words. And then I would come out of the room, right? I would print it, and I would come out of the room, and I would show people what I had written, and, sometimes it would get read, and sometimes it would just be glanced at, and, I'd get a pat on the head, and, oh, it's really good. And I kept doing this. At the beginning, it was quarterly, and then I turned it into monthly, because I just found I had an interest in writing. And I had done 100 issues of it. And it went through everything from everybody's weddings to baby showers to babies to, to everybody going to college and getting jobs and traveling and doing all these things. And I thought that I had every issue of it because I've got a big filing cabinet in my office at home, and I thought, I've got all 100 issues. I did. Well, when I went and looked back, my collection starts at issue number 2. My grandma, my Baba, had the very first issue of the newsletter. Now, to me, this is what shows that this is a woman who's proud of her family and appreciates the little things. Because, like I said, I just did this for attention, basically. I just, The fact that she kept that, and it was one of those old school printers too, that was just one long rolling sheet, and then you'd have to separate each page. It had the coils on the side. It's still in one piece. 25 years later. It wasn't separated and stapled. It wasn't whatever. It was still like that. And the fact that she kept that in her drawer, in her little, like a little makeup, whatever, just right there in her bedroom, all these years later. And that just meant something to me, because you make you make your parents' stuff in school or whatever it is, and they put it on the fridge for a while, and then somehow it disappears and they threw it out, right? She hung on to this. Something that her grandkid, when he was 12 years old, just typed this up. And again, it was a recap of what was happening in the family. And my cousin had just had a baby. I was having my 13th birthday. My other cousin was doing a student exchange program in Brazil. There was a lot of big things happening in the family. And so there I was, just writing. It was basically like 2 paragraphs about each thing. But the fact is that this meant something to her and that she kept it. And years later, so doing this newsletter for all those years, I upgraded after a while, right? It was then full color. It was in a binder. It had the plastic sleeves that I would put the sheet protector. And I would go and would get to a family get-together, and I'd put it on the table, and I'd watch from a distance to see, who's going to look at it, who's going to flip through it. Do they read the whole thing? Do they just look at the pictures, whatever it is? And I actually have a picture of that. They would open it up, my grandma and my grandpa. I have a picture of her on the right-hand side, him on the left. She's reading the right page, he's reading the left. And they were always the first people to grab that and read it. And so the fact that she still has that 25 years later, that just, And so I took that, because that's something that I just can't believe that she hung on to. Like, that just, that really, and to find that sort of right at the end of kind of going through things, and potentially my last time being in that house. I mean, it just made me feel so good. So, there we go. There's another tear-filled segment. How many times have I cried on this show? I know when we were doing the Basil show talking about my dead dog, but yeah, there we go. All right, thanks for listening to that. We'll be right back.
Isn't it crazy that you wait for payday, but before you know it, you're strapped for cash again? It's time to stop blowing your money and become a smart spender with the book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate, at cheapskatebook.com. Learn simple ways to cut costs at home every day and during special times of the year. Don't go broke at Christmas. Don't remortgage the house for a fancy vacation. The book is filled with tips to save you money throughout the year. Check out the best-selling book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate, at cheapskatebook.com or on Amazon and iTunes.
Ever had something to get off your chest but never had the balls to say it? That's a load of crap. Speak Free with JB.com is exactly what you've been waiting for. Your chance to tell it like it is and not care what anybody else thinks. Have your say on issues of the day. Join newspaper and radio columnist Jeremy Bradley as he tells it like it is. Hundreds of thousands of people have stopped by, including some well-known celebrities who have had a chat with JB and speak candidly about what's really going on in the world. You can join them too. Have a rant or a rave. Be brave and head on over to www.speakfreewithjb.com now.
Jeremy Bradley here, back on the Scribble. Let's talk about this Corona thing for a little bit here, everybody. Okay, so we know I don't really tell people what they should and shouldn't do. I hate that word should. As soon as somebody tells me I should do something, I honestly just stop listening, because I'm a grown-up, I can make my own decisions. Now, I realize that there are medical experts and professionals that are leading the charge in many different places, right? It could be your city, it could be your state or province, it could be, the head of your country. There's just so many people that are all telling you things. And at the beginning, when this whole Corona thing started, I wrote a newspaper column about this, and I said, I didn't like going out in public because everybody is looking at you with a side glare as though you have it in quotation marks, okay? And I didn't like that feeling. So I didn't like going to the store and then clearing my throat and people all of a sudden, shooing away, scurrying away. And I said, I don't want to live in a world like that, because that's honestly what I thought would happen, is suddenly we're all going to turn on each other. You're infected and and you stay away from me. Yeah. But then gradually over time, what we've seen is the people, meaning everyday folks like me, versus those experts, professionals, commentators, the people who are being portrayed as knowing what they're talking about. Now, I'm not saying that the medical experts and nurses and doctors don't know what they're talking about, but what it's led to in Canada a couple of weeks ago was protests at a doctor, one of the medical experts' places. So basically the mouthpiece for the government who comes on and says, do this, don't do this, you know the instructions, you've seen the press conferences. Well, in one province they didn't, they took it to the streets, basically. That's what they did. And so it prompted, now this is what's interesting, is that it prompted a post by the Canadian Medical Association. And it says, since the beginning of COVID-19, this worrying phenomenon has escalated. What began as online harassment has evolved into threats and in-person intimidation. We have seen protests at the private residences of Saskatchewan's Chief Medical Officer of Health and Quebec's National Public Health Officer. We must speak out against such intimidation, whether online, in person, and urge those responsible for overseeing social media platforms and law enforcement bodies to put an end to this highly alarming conduct. And then there's a quote here, like a big, the image is the quote that says, the bullying of public health officials in Canada must stop immediately. And that's the president of the Canadian Medical Association. Now, within hours of posting that, I've got to tell you, within 5 hours ago it was posted, and there are over 3,000 comments. Now, a lot of people are going back and forth. It's a mixed bag on it. Somebody says, stop bullying citizens with unnecessary lockdowns, etc. Give everyone the actual data and stop fear-mongering. Problem solved. That person's reply gets a whole bunch of responses. Another one said, public speaking is open to public scrutiny. Hey, you know what? I face that too. I used to do, a lighthearted, fun video series in the newspaper, and people were grabbing screenshots and tweeting, the kind of face that you want to punch and all these things. Meanwhile, it had absolutely nothing to... So I accepted it, is what I'm saying here. That was kind of just my point, is when you're out there in the public eye, no different than a celebrity, you're open to people reacting and responding to what you say and do. Here's somebody else. Perhaps if they were totally honest about what is happening, this would not happen. These experts are politically motivated to lie to Canadians. Stop the lies, and it will probably stop the protesting. How many livelihoods have been bullied and threatened by the public health Gestapo? Get over it. The bullying by public health officials in Canada must stop immediately. There, I fixed your headline. Stop bullying, guilt-tripping, and harassing innocent people. The public health officials in Canada must stop immediately terrorizing the population with their uninterrupted scaremongering tactics. So it's interesting. Now, I'm not, let me give you full disclosure here. Some of these have 12 replies, 45 replies, 99 replies. So it's not like people are just sort of leaving that and letting it go. It's a whole discussion. Like I said, over 3,000 comments, after 5 hours of being posted. So what it's turned into now is that it's, again, us versus them. People don't like the fact that the government is telling us, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't travel, you can't do... And then there's more and more stories of all these politicians that are traveling. So I'm not taking a side and saying that people should not be threatening these, because nobody should be threatened no matter what you do. And I'm not familiar with the stories of, the person in Quebec or Saskatchewan. Were they absolutely wrong? Did they, do something that really offended the masses? I'm not taking a side in it. But what I'm saying is protest is something that you're allowed to do. We heard that in the United States for how long, right? But yes, absolutely, bullying, intimidation, those kinds of things are not right, because also they're illegal, okay? So I'm not taking the side of the people who are, threatening and that's not what I'm saying. But I understand the public's reaction, though, when you've got the Canadian Medical Association taking a stand and saying, don't bully our people. Well, here's the deal. I don't watch the daily press conferences anymore about coronavirus. And it's not even about putting my head in the sand and pretending it doesn't exist. I know it does exist. I'm doing my thing, which is staying in my house, limiting my contact with people. I'm doing my part. That's what I believe is the right thing. I'm not here to argue that you should do this. Again, I'm not here to tell you should do anything. I've listened to the advice, and in my best judgment, granted I'm not a medical expert, but from everything that I've heard, from all the different sources from all over the world, there's a thread, there's a commonality in the information that I'm getting, right? I don't agree with the hydroxychloroquine thing, whatever that was called at the very beginning. But, do you know what I did? I talked to Dr. Oz. I did. Remember we did that 2-hour broadcast about coronavirus. I talked to Dr. Oz, and I was like, what is this thing that we're hearing about? Now, at the time, Oz went and said, Metman Oz said he was actually sort of backing this and siding with it. He then backtracked a little bit in the weeks following. But bottom line is, you get the information, you make an informed decision that's in the best interest of yourself and your family, and don't worry what everybody else is doing. Protect yourself, protect your family. Yes, you should be concerned if your neighbors are being reckless and not abiding by the rules and whatever. But you know what? That's my thing, is I don't get involved in people's business. So again, do they have the right to protest? Absolutely. Hello, my website, my newspaper column, Speak Free with JB. Speak free. I'm encouraging people to do that. I love having a discussion. I love having a debate. If you disagree with me, wonderful. But don't call me names. Don't go after personal. Like do you get it? That's where we've sort of lost this whole level of having a discussion nowadays. If you don't agree with me, you've got to beat it into me that you disagree and that I'm wrong and you're right. No. So if you disagree with the public health or the whoever, the talking heads, we'll call them. If you disagree with them, absolutely speak your mind. Speak your mind civilly. Because, and I think we talked about this on the show not that long ago, when I commented about Kellyanne Conway's daughter and the topless photos, and everybody was like, oh, you're condoning child porn, that Kellyanne posted a picture of her daughter half naked. No, actually, I was saying kids have more self-respect than taking nude photos of yourself. Because if the girl, 16, not a child, teenager, young adult, if she's stupid enough to take pictures like that and keep them on her phone, if she understands social media, she understands, the cloud or wherever things are saved, or hacking. You can't tell me there's a 16-year-old who's so tuned into social media that doesn't understand what a hacker, what a cloud, all those things are. But yet the mob came at me saying that I'm condoning child pornography and child abuse. And I was like, okay, wait a second. My commentary is about kids don't do naked pictures, period. So I'm coming out giving advice, and I'm coming and saying, have a little self-respect, have some smarts about you. Don't take photos just because you want some boy or girl or whatever to like you. And so the fact that there was a news story so many months or years or whatever later that coincided with exactly what, if the Conway kid, I'm blanking on her name right now, Claudia, if the Conway kid would have just read this post that I did in the newspaper, wherever, she might not have been the center of a scandal. Okay? So that's all I'm saying. But when the mob came at me and is thrashing me that you're some insecure 36-year-old man, blah, 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 and I was like, where does that come? Like, you're blaming the victim. The column was not written about her. So that's my point, is that the whole state of conversations and dialogue and debate is just so terrible that it doesn't surprise me that these protests are happening outside the people's homes. It doesn't really surprise me at all. But, right, the intimidation thing. Hey, it's one thing to stand on a sidewalk with a sign. That's fine. If you're going up to the house and ringing the bell or calling all hours of the night or throwing things at the windows, absolutely, that's crossing the line. There's a difference, right? I can absolutely, if I disagree with my politician, it is well within my right for me to stand on a public sidewalk and chant outside their house within reasonable hours, right? I'm not going to do it at 4 a.m. But as long as I'm following the rules, I'm on a public, sidewalk or street, whatever it is, I'm well within my rights to do that. So I'm interested that a medical organization has taken a stand, as it did with this Facebook post, and then the fallout. Again, literally thousands of replies within just a few hours or several hours of it being posted. So I'd like to hear from you. Now, I don't want you to chime in and say that intimidating these people is wrong. We get that. I've said that, right? I covered that. But I want you to tell me what you think about the whole idea of a medical association now lecturing the public and saying, hey, back off of our people. Is it needed, or do you think that's just going to fuel the fire? Send me an email, live@jbonair.com, live@jbonair.com.
It's never too early to start thinking about your next holiday. Have you checked out Mexico recently? From tequila tasting, swimming with horses, to ziplining through the jungle and watching whales and dolphins in their natural habitat, Puerto Vallarta has it all. Visit mexico.jbonair.com to see all the fun PV has to offer. That's at mexico.jbonair.com for hundreds of photos, interviews, and videos from around the tourist hotspot. Check out mexico.jbonair.com for all the fun. That's mexico.jbonair.com.
We hear you chirping. Get scribbling. Tweet up the Scribble at The Scribble Show. Join the discussion with Jeremy Bradley. It's all going down right now on Twitter at The Scribble Show and at thescribbleshow.com.
Jeremy Bradley here, and out of time. We're out of time on the Scribble. Feel free to give me a shout anytime. As you've already heard, the email address is live at jbonair.com, live at jbonair.com, and I don't know what's actually coming up on the show next week. I was going to preview it, but I don't know. Something entertaining and time-wasting, I can guarantee that. I will talk to you same time, same place next week. Thanks for listening, thanks for subscribing, and thanks for giving me your feedback. I'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye for now.
Want more Scribble? Check out thescribbleshow.com for past shows, celebrity interviews, cheapskate tips, and more. That's at thescribbleshow.com and on Twitter at The Scribble Show. The Scribble is a speak-free media presentation.
If you want some real heat,